will say that emotional handicap, for lack of a better term, that emotional handicap, it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. You can be accomplished, intelligent, but when the shit goes down to the foundation, then that's when even the biggest problems can seem almost childlike.
Yes.
When you really get down to the nitty gritty and down to the root. So like, I just want to say that because so that people don't think that while we're having this conversation about this, that we're sort of making, that you can reason and say, well, not me, I have these degrees, I have this money, and that doesn't mean
that
shit.
doesn't happen to me, and that's not it is. And to bring it, and also to bring back what you said, something about the family myth, I think another thing that Paul also has to understand or has to do is realize, the family myth is a family myth. Because as much as people are your family, the hurt is still real. Yes. The hurt doesn't go away from the blood, you guys sharing the same blood. The hurt doesn't go away. It stays there. And it's crazy, but it's like, I want to say, how many years, like traditionally, the family myth was super real because we lived in a society where it was like, you had people who stayed with their own, right?
Yes.
Like, you have black families. They're not going to therapy to deal with traumas or to like talk things out. And, everything is let Jesus fix it and all that other stuff like that. And so those problems stay within the family and they continue to fester and manifest in ways, not only emotionally, but then the way in which the person, like socially, in the way in which the person would grow up and, they're doing shit for attention because they couldn't get the attention before. But, it's my family. And so I gotta stay with my mom, even though she beats me every night. But, I'm still gonna stay with my mom. And then that shit manifests into you gotta find some coping mechanism, be it drugs, alcohol, whatever. To kind of like help shut your brain off from all the, so traditionally, that family myth really was created a breeding ground. Yes. For this dysfunction and this corruption, if you will. Right. But I feel like now that as people are becoming more aware that it's okay to talk things out to other people. Yeah. Therapy is not much of a stigma as it was before, because in those times, if you went to a therapist, it's like, you crazy. Oh my God, you're crazy. She in therapy, right? Oh my goodness. She crazy. She's a psychiatrist.
Exactly.
And then people look at, that's the funny cousin. Who,
yes, exactly. The funny cousin. The touched one.
The touched one, right? And I feel like since people are letting go of that stigma around therapy and around, counseling, that it can open up so much more for those who are trying to get away from that family myth and for them to create their own healthy family. Right. Create your own circle, have a good circle of people around you that can, just show you that the life that you grew up in, the life that you knew doesn't have to exist. Right. Or that you don't have to continue living in that.
Right. Amen to that.
And I say that like as of late, I speak with a therapist. I don't make it a secret, though I think some people in my family do, but okay. I see a therapist, and she even mentioned something to me along the lines of like, it's good to have new friends because sometimes there are people in your life who they know you one way and they've known you in this way where maybe you weren't so great and you weren't so good, and they feed off of that.
Yes.
It's okay to have new friends. It's okay. Yeah. Like even to the point where she was telling me like, because I told her, like therapy, it is a little, people in my family might think of it as like, and she was like, well, then that means you need to be in a circle of people who understand therapy and who understand that, hey, the shit doesn't go away, overnight, and it's not going to take, 15 sessions for you to quote, be better. Like maybe you should find a circle or find people who are in that mindset or who are okay with that mindset. So that way you wouldn't feel like there's something wrong with you going to therapy. Right. So I say all of that to say, that the family myth is super real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Paul needs to find a new family or create a better family.
Right.
You know, and that's to say that he should just chuck up the deuces to his dysfunctional family, but he needs to get away from that dysfunctional behavior before it continues to affect not only him but those partner around him, because the topic was adulting with dating, dating and dating a person's family. And the thing is that, you know, Damien came in this for Paul. He didn't come into this shit to be with Paul and Paul's mom and Paul's dad and Paul's two cousins and his funky uncle and his crackhead brother. Like he didn't sign up for that.
Nah, he didn't.
You know what I mean? He signed up to be with Paul because he loves Paul. He loves Paul as a person and has grown to love him, and they have the relationship. Yeah. And I feel in order for them to save that relationship, Paul has to remember that this is a relationship between me and him. You know, I think isn't it Freud who says some shit like how when you're in the bed, it's like all the other people are in the bed with you.
All those energies and people from your past and stuff like that. Yeah.
Paul needs to kick them people out the fucking bed.
Right, and exactly. Get rid of exactly. And you know,
kick those people out the bed.
And if he don't want to kick those people out the bed, then I mentioned to Damien that he needs to, and we talked about this before, but we'll repeat it again. Boundaries are so important. So if Paul don't want to get rid of those people,
put a pillow between
Damien needs to set those boundaries. Yes, put those boundaries up and keep those people out where there's always a safe space for he and Paul, and also communicate. Sometimes the simplest, the answers to our problems that seem huge are the simplest. Boundaries and communication. And I would say to any person, any adulting person, adultish, adultish kind of human being person. If you're dating someone, if you're in this situation, like creating healthy boundaries to protect yourself, to protect your soul, it's good to keep you cleansed of all that toxicity, to keep y'all cleansed, and communicating. Look, now was not a good time, and maybe the way you communicate could be important too. I would say, because you have to. It would be good to remember that you're with someone who's dealing with a crisis. And even though you don't want to take on that crisis right now because you can't, or you just don't feel like it at that moment, and you've earned that because you have, then I think the good thing to keep into consideration is how you communicate that. Because if that comes out in a moment,
in a way that it just makes them feel that that you are also disregarding them, then it's continuing.
You're triggering them too.
Exactly. It's creating that same dysfunction, or at the very least giving them the perception, okay, well, this is what, you know, I had at home and now I have that here with you. And they're going to start falling back into those behaviors and those coping mechanisms and saying, you know what, well, if you're going to talk to me the way that like my mom or my dad talks to me or my sister talks to me, then I'm going to treat you the way that I treat them.
And here's what I would say to that too. Also, what you got to remember too is that you're dealing with people who are traumatized and triggered, and they will try to perpetuate things on you that their family did to them. So with that response that you just said, while I will say, be careful the way you say it. Also, if you piss the fuck off and you go off, it's your right to go off. But just make sure that while you're going off, you explain to them.
Yes.
You explain to them, I'm not doing what your mom and your dad or whoever did to you, but I am telling you this way because I am pissed off, and you need to understand this is serious. Like, you do have the right to be mad and show that,
you do.
And not let them manipulate you into taking on their shit because you feel like you have to because you're in a relationship. So it's a fine line.
It's a fine line, and as you said, it's all about communication, because you can say fuck off, and they can take that one way, or if you say to them, listen, I'm very upset right now that our conversations are continuously about A, B, and C, and I'm letting you know that I am not A, B, and C, and I am not treating you in any way, shape, or form the way in which they treat you about things. But right now, I do not want to discuss this with you. Yes. I'm very upset that you're bringing this back to my attention. I'm letting you know how I feel, and I'm also letting you know that my feelings do not upstage yours.
Yes.
All right? My feelings do not upstage yours. My feelings are not more important than your feelings, but they are just as important. Exactly. And please respect that.
Exactly. See, bam. So you see, folks, boundaries, communications, and like balance.
And always that as important, because that's when the whole more important, that's that whole comparison shit. That's when it starts.
Yeah, that's a dark territory right there.
Slippery slope, because that's how they're feeling, that everyone's more important than them. You know, so you gotta let them know it's as important, sweetheart. I love you.
Yes, exactly.
But my feelings at this moment are as important as yours, and I do not want to go down this road with you today.
Exactly.
Please give me a moment. I need a day. Give me a few hours, and then I will help you to sit down and process this if you need my assistance in doing so. But right now, not today.
Not today.
And when you're pissed off, try and be as diplomatic and articulate as possible.
Exactly.
Because again, saying just, fuck this shit, I don't want to hear this bullshit, that does not help.
Yeah,
that is not effective communication. And people should always know that even when you're fighting, there's a way to fight fair.
Yeah, definitely.
And fighting fair has a lot of that, being really communicative in that.
Right. Amen. So, and on that note, girl.
On that note, we gonna wrap this all up.
This conversation got me hot. It ain't even me.
So, with that said, I'm gonna thank Mr. Vincent Bernard yet again for joining in on this episode of the Adulting Podcast. Please be sure to drop off your socials so that they can know where to contact you, Vinny.
Sure thing. So, Facebook is Vincent Bernard. Look for the Joskin brother in the I am looking out the window and I'm showing my body a little bit. And
always with the chesticles shown.
Right. Instagram is Vincent Bernard _83 and Twitter is Vince _Bernard.
All right. And folks, if you want to hit me up, please be sure to do so on Instagram at ALJA0214. You can also hit me up on Twitter at LaJoliePoeta. That's LaJoliePoeta. If you want to chat with us on the Adultish social media accounts, please feel free to do so. We are Adultish P0DCAST. That's ADULTISH P0DCAST on either Instagram or Twitter. If you want to keep the conversation going, but in private via email, please be sure to hit me up on Afiya at digidisnet.com. That's Afiya at digidisnet.com. Once again, we want to thank you all for listening. Please be sure to like, listen, share, and subscribe to the Adultish Podcast. As you remember from our last episode about those updates, our numbers are going up, and they can only continue to grow up if you continue to subscribe. That's please tell all your friends who love listening to us to please subscribe to us. So if we get these rankings up and we get these numbers up, then iTunes will actually acknowledge us as a real thing.
Exactly.
And then we can do some more amazing, wonderful things for you all. But again, thank you all for listening and staying tuned. Until another episode of the Adultish Podcast. Bye.
Stay classy, New York.